Why you need to drink plenty of fluids when the weather warms up. We'll pause to learn about a unique new employee at Sinai-Grace. And we've got news about STDs. These stories and more coming up next on Sinai-Grace Today. Hello, I'm Melanie Moss. The weather is finally breaking and it looks like summer has arrived. That's good news for most of us, but it also means we need to take care when we're working or playing outdoors. Dr. Monique Butler tells us why.
It's very important to take water when it's very warm outside for obvious reasons, but most importantly because our cells, our tissues, our organs need water in order to function properly. Water is one of the most important beverages that we can take in, and I would say that it's the most important beverage. H2O is a gift to the human body. And the signs that people should look for when they're not getting enough water, we call it dehydration, is clammy skin, cold, clammy skin, a decrease in the amount of water or sweat that you would see on the skin. And then other signs and symptoms that we should look for are lightheadedness and dizziness. That tells us that we're not getting enough water. The body is such a smart machine that if you're not getting enough water, the brain is saying, look, you need to sit down because we need to conserve, and so you'll start to get lightheaded and dizzy. Summer months, we want to make sure that we're getting plenty of water just because of the elevated temperature. So severe signs of dehydration would include lightheadedness, dizziness, decrease in urination, decrease in sweat, and then also once it becomes so severe, we call it syncope, or when the patient passes out. So making sure that our bodies are fully hydrated, drinking enough water, especially while we're exercising or moving around in hot weather, is so important.
We've got a new employee here at Sinai-Grace, and he's responsible for bringing smiles to many of our patients. So if you see him in the hallways, you might want to say hi.
The purpose of a therapy dog is to visit with people either in the hospital or a nursing home or children in a school. And it's to provide comfort and companionship to people who maybe are missing their dog. In the case of somebody in a hospital or a nursing home, they may have had to give up their pet. And so it gives them, you know, kind of that warm, fuzzy feeling that they don't have when they're sitting alone in a hospital bed all day. And they've even had documented cases where dogs will come in and actually get a reaction out of a patient who's been comatose and hasn't responded to anything else, but they will actually respond to the touch of the feel of the fur of the dog. Most hospitals do have a therapy dog program, and it's really nice to be able to offer that to patients and offer a more complete program. The Cancer Center is where it started because we're expanding the Cancer Center program to include other modalities such as yoga, pet therapy, classes and things like that. And so that's where the idea originated from.
I am so excited about the therapy dog program at Sinai-Grace. I think it's going to bring so much joy to the patients here, and I think we've needed one for a very long time.
So far, Leo has been received very well. Everybody seems to be really excited, and he seems to be really happy. He wags his tail a lot, and he really seems to enjoy visiting with all the staff and patients and family members.
Dogs bring good things to people, I believe. I feel much better. I was rubbing him and everything, so he kept trying to look in the camera, so.
If anybody in the hospital is interested in having Leo come to visit either a particular patient or a unit, they can contact me at the Cancer Center. My name is Karen Lauren, and you can call me at 313-966-3472.
Sexually transmitted diseases, or STDs, affect 1 in every 4 Americans over the age of 24. Dr. Andrea Coleman fills us in on the sobering statistics.
STDs continue to be a huge problem in this country. We have about 15 million new cases of STDs that are diagnosed annually, making the incidence and the percentage of STDs that are diagnosed in the United States more than any other modernized country. So that's a pretty significant fact. It's a pretty sobering fact, being that by age 24, 1 in every 4 Americans will have contracted an STD at some time in their lives. Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, herpes, hepatitis B. We've seen actually in the last couple of years a spike in the syphilis transmission, especially in the Detroit metropolitan area. So we continue to watch that, and we are concerned. We currently have about 65 million people who are living with one type of STD or another. So it's a pretty big deal. Big deal because a lot of times, for various reasons, people are unaware. Some are curable, some are not curable. They fall into basically 2 categories: the bacterial ones, which we can treat with antibiotics, and then the others, the viral ones, such as HIV and herpes, which are viruses, we can't treat with antibiotics for a cure. We can treat symptoms, but we can't achieve a cure. So STDs are still a major problem, and you know, it all goes back to knowing who your partners are, knowing your partner's sexual health, and taking the time to actually ask those difficult questions. Being tested on a regular basis based on what your lifestyle choices are. Those are all the things that we can do in addition to the obvious, such as latex condom use. Also, again, exploring your partner's sexual history, and limiting the number of sexual partners that you have. We know all of those things can help us with decreasing the incidence of STDs as we know it in this country today.
The difficult choice made recently by actress Angelina Jolie has put a spotlight on the controversy of women having preemptive surgeries. Our own Dr. Keiva Bland, a surgeon here at Sinai-Grace, talks about this difficult decision.
Recently in the news, there's been a big story about Angelina Jolie undergoing an elective bilateral mastectomy to reduce her risk for breast cancer. She was found to have a genetic risk for breast cancer based on her being tested for the BRCA gene, which is the breast cancer gene, and there's 2 versions, 1 and 2. She was stimulated to get this test based on her mother dying of ovarian cancer, and she was found, in fact, to have the gene. She decided to undergo the prophylactic mastectomy to reduce her risk, and she made a very good point of stating that her doctor told her that it would not make her risk 0, but it would reduce her risk of developing breast cancer from 87% down to about 5%, which is about the appropriate amount. So she decided to have the bilateral mastectomy to reduce her risk of developing breast cancer as a result of her being identified as being a gene mutation carrier. I would say that people who have breast cancer, however, do not need to undergo bilateral mastectomy if they have breast cancer in just one breast. They really should weigh all of their options in terms of their surgical choices for managing their breast cancer. The decision to do bilateral mastectomies for genetically positive people versus those who just have breast cancer is definitely a personal decision that has to be made, but it's not something that needs to be done. People do have the option to undergo lumpectomy or just a single-side mastectomy if they're diagnosed with breast cancer. The majority of people who have breast cancer have what we call sporadic cases, meaning that there's no family history for it or no genetic mutation to account for it. There are some people who, however, who do need to have genetic counseling or testing if they are diagnosed with breast cancer. Those people would be people who have more than one first-degree relative with breast cancer. It would also be someone who's 40 years old or younger developing breast cancer that needs to have it, and those people who also have a lot of different cancers in their family. So these are things that would prompt us to send a person to genetic counseling, and from there, after the consultation with the counselor, then they may be referred for genetic testing.
For these stories and more, you can visit our Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube pages for every episode of Sinai-Grace Today. Also, log on to pagingdredie.com for great health information. I'm Melanie Moss. Thanks for watching.